Hey gang! Welcome to Turkiye. Today I'm taking you to Selçuk, Ephesus and Sirince. I'll show you the highlights of my trip. I'll tell you how I got from A to B, what prices to expect, as well as a few tips if you happen to be planning a trip there. We landed in Izmir and jumped straight on a train to Selçuk. You can find the train straight from the airport. Although it is a normal overground train, you'd have to follow the metro signs for some reason. Selçuk is a lovely little town to visit. This is where we stayed. In Selçuk, you can do everything on foot. As soon as you arrive at the train station, it's called the gare, like in French. You'll spot the remains of a Roman aqueduct. I'm glad we stayed in Selçuk because it's fairly quiet. Interestingly, despite the proximity with Ephesus, it's actually not too touristy. I think most people stay on the seaside, like in Kuşadası on the coast. Many people also come from a cruise ship or on a day trip from Istanbul. As everywhere in Turkey, you'll see a lot of stray animals, dogs and cats. Although they live on the streets, they're very well taken care of by the local residents. See, the dog has a tag in his ear because he's been vaccinated. I'm glad Selçuk was our first stop in Turkey, so we got to get an idea of the normal prices of things, like a tea, a coffee, or a pomegranate juice. Because in the very touristy areas, they've boosted up the prices a bit, and a bit much. When you see those little things on top of the dome there that signify it's a bath, a Turkish bath. We did not visit any. Time for my first fresh pomegranate juice of the trip, freshly pressed in front of you for 50 liras. Yummy. Despite all the street cats, people still have pets at home, and sadly some of them go missing, like anywhere else really. I wonder if they get many people calling after the missing cat poster, because they have hundreds and thousands of cats on the streets. How do you know which one is missing? This is the famous temple of Artemis. Sadly, it is ruined, but you can still see this column. It was once one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, completed in 550 BC. If you keep going a few minutes along the same road, you'll find a beautiful cemetery, if that's your type of thing. In the town center, of course, you'll hear the call for prayer 5 times a day. The first one in the morning, I can tell you, is fairly early. It's at 6 something, depending on the sun. The vast majority of the population in Turkey is of the Muslim faith, but it is a secular country. You might see a lot of ladies modestly dressed and with their head covered, and you might see some that don't at all. That's absolutely fine. In the middle of the town center, on the hill, you'll find the Selçuk citadel. Only the walls survive, really. But you do have some Byzantine and Ottoman remains. Allegedly, the hill was the site of the tomb of John the Apostle, cousin and early disciples of Jesus. He came to live in Ephesus only 5 years after the crucifixion. His body would have been removed later on, he's probably somewhere in Italy now, but allegedly the original place of his burial was here. There's a 7th century fortress protecting the basilica. You can go and visit it, we didn't. I don't think there's much to see inside, really. Another thing to visit around Selçuk is the Cave of the Seven Sleepers. We walked all the way there, but at the time of recording, so that's November 2024, it was closed for refurbishment. Not sure when it will reopen. For dinner, lentil soup and menemen. That's the Turkish omelette. It's an omelette with a lot of tomatoes. The next morning, we took a minibus to Ephesus. The bus trip is only 30 liras. Now, those are the prices to visit Ephesus. 40 euros, which is 4 times more than 4 years ago, I asked. We were the first ones in there, apart from the doggies. And 40 euros, that's what you pay if you don't want to see the residential area. If you want the full ticket, that's 52 euros. This is the first agora. Agora means open space. That's how we got the term for agoraphobe. You'll have this type of open spaces to discuss politics, for example, or when to do the market as well. Ephesus was a port city. It's hard to believe today, but the sea used to come all the way down here, about 5 miles away today. Now, Ephesus is lovely to visit, but I think 52 euros is a bit much. It is more than the Tower of London. Sadly, all the prices of the touristy attractions in Turkey have massively gone up in the last few years. I would blame Instagram. In the last few years, Turkey has become one of the 5 most visited countries in the world. And you know, once you're here, you'll pay. We arrived first thing in the morning, before all the cruise ships got here. If you are into photography or any type of content creating, I'll recommend you do the same. And we actually got in through the exit side. So early morning, you've got no one in the background for photos, and you've got a beautiful light as well. You'll see those little markings on the floor for people to know what type of buildings they'll enter. Ephesus was once one of the most influential cities of the Roman Empire. You'll see the library of Selçuk, you'll see the theaters. 2,000 people minimum lived in there. The residential areas are on the slopes, but it's a bit more money to go and visit that. We did not. The theatre, by the way, was called the Odeon, like the Odeon theatres in the UK. No drones, I'm afraid. That's okay, I don't have one. It's amazing to imagine that you're walking down the same streets as Julius Caesar, Cleopatra, St. Paul's, St. John's, and potentially the Virgin Mary, as well as a lot of the early Jesus followers. I did love it, I just think it's a bit expensive, really. By the way, putting the prices in euro, it's illegal in Turkiye. You're not allowed to print the prices in a foreign currency. On a list, on a work contract, anywhere, it should be in Turkish liras. But this is a governmental building, so they're actually breaking their own laws. It's also part of the UNESCO World Heritage. Some furry friends still live there. Good morning. It is about 80 kilometers south of Izmir, so you could also come here on a day trip from Izmir. Artemis was originally worshipped here. Then the Christians arrived. And a Jewish community also lived here. They all lived in harmony. It has been a prosperous metropolis since the 11th century BC. If you came on a train from Izmir, it's about an hour and a half, the train. And it's very affordable. It is believed that the Virgin Mary spent her final years living with St. John's in Ephesus. Before crucifixions, St. John's was asked by Jesus himself to take care of his mother. There is a place a few kilometers away that you can go and visit that is allegedly where Mary lived. We wanted to go, but the entrance fee was 15 euros for a tiny little room that is potentially not the right place. And there was no public transport to get there. Even after hard negotiations, the taxi driver didn't want to take us there for less than 30 euros, for only a few miles, so we decided not to go. We decided to go and use this free afternoon to explore a lovely little village instead. Coming up next in the video. Underneath this sheltered area, it's the residential place that we did not visit. Somehow I've managed to miss the public toilets. Or maybe I just didn't read the sign. In Roman times, the public toilets were almost like a social event. They'll have those latrines with pipes and everything, so they had a plumbing system. And they had those sticks with a sponge at the top to clean their bum. You can still see some of the pipes today. See, those are the pipes that were used to get the dirty water away. And of course, they had important buildings and valuables, so they had doors. This was to lock the door with a wooden beam, I think. There's a lot of marble everywhere, and of course marble can be a bit slippery, so you can see those little lines so you don't slip. At the time of recording, they were doing some work on the harbored part of the port city, so we couldn't access that. So it suddenly got much busier. At first we had the place for ourselves, not anymore. It doesn't get too busy in November though. More of the pipe system over here. You also get access to the museum part. It's like a 4D experience. To get from Selçuk to Ephesus, if you don't want to catch a bus, you can also take those horse carriage rides. After getting back to Selçuk, we jumped on a bus to Şirince. If anyone from Turkiye is watching this video, I do apologize if I butchered any of the names. Time for another fresh pomegranate juice. Şirince is a lovely village up the mountain, known for its wines. Even pomegranate wines. The village was founded by freed Greek slaves after the fall of Ephesus. It was originally known under a different name. They had called it Şirince, which, if I said it properly, would mean ugly. They had called it ugly as a deterrent so people wouldn't follow them. And later on, when the Turkish government came around, they decided to change the name to Sirince. That means pretty place. Apparently, there are a lot of people that came to visit the village in 2012 because there was one particular day that people had predicted the end of the world all over the internet, on YouTube and stuff. And apparently the locals believed that the village would not fall. But the end of the world never came anyway. It's a cute little village for a stroll. Not much to do apart from shopping and enjoying the views, but it's really nice. You can enjoy a nice Turkish coffee. Although people here seem to much prefer black tea than coffee. You can taste some very interesting homemade jams, some of which my little taste buds have still not quite computed what flavor they are. Like this gum jam. I mean, it's gum, I'm guessing gum from a tree, but very different flavor. Hope you enjoyed that little video. If you made it that far into the video, you might wanna consider subscribing to the channel. Most of what I do on YouTube is actually live streaming, so make sure you check out my live section. After that, we jumped on a train to Pamukkale. Make sure you check out that video as well.